Welcome to Golf and the Good Life, your guide to golf travel across the pond. I'm DJ Jones, he is Connor Evers, and today marks episode 70, and the topic for the day is the best 36-hole days across the pond. But before we get there, Connor, we have essentially wrapped the 2025 travel season, got just a couple rounds left, some exciting days ahead for all of us at H&B with some travel of our own coming up. But what is the latest and greatest up at H&B HQ?
Huge, appreciate it. Yeah, as you said, cannot believe we're at episode 70. It's going along well. So looking forward to today's episode too. But yeah, as you mentioned there, the last few groups are kind of finishing up their trips overseas. We've got a group in Ireland. Their last round of golf is at Waterville, and another group in Scotland. Their last round is at Muirfield. So pretty cool and unique way to end the golf travel season there. So all good there. And as you mentioned, we're both going overseas for a couple journeys. I'm going kind of all over. Yours as a little bit of a quicker trip and what have you, and some personal travel for you too. So looking forward to our journeys overseas. I also wanted to do a shout out to members from Laurel Creek Country Club and Westchester Hills Golf Club. Members from these clubs were on a trip of ours. They actually were successful with the ballot on the old course. Not only were they successful with it, they were actually successful twice on the ballot. So a few members from that group were able to apply it twice. So something unheard of. Does happen sometimes, but not very, very often. So it's pretty unique that some of them were able to play it twice. So pretty cool way to kind of end their trip in St. Andrews. So, but all good things here at HQ Deej.
Yeah, unheard of is absolutely right. I mean, gosh, I hope they bought a Powerball ticket when they got home. I mean, that just doesn't really happen. I mean, we've talked about the ballot so many times, here in past episodes, and more often than not, I feel like we're kind of mentally prepping you for not hitting the ballot
Yeah.
and coming home and having not played it. And this group goes over and gets to play it twice. So what a lucky turn. And it just goes to show you really just never know when it comes to the St. Andrews ballot, especially happening in September, where there's already pretty limited availability for the old course given R&A events and so forth. So really cool stuff. And yeah, looking forward to our upcoming travels. We'll talk some more about that, I guess, in probably some upcoming episodes. But today's topic, we are talking about the best 36-hole days across the pond, maybe our favorite 36-hole days across the pond as well. And, if you've listened at all of the podcasts, it may not come as a surprise that I'm not very bullish on 36-hole days. As much as I love links golf, one round a day is enough. 10 hours on the golf course is not my brand of travel when there's so many other things to see and do while you're over there. But at the same time, realistically speaking, look, that we get it. There's a lot of boxes to check. There's a lot of courses to play, and there's a lot of daylight. And so while H&B will never craft a trip that is wall to wall with 36-hole days, we get that there's value to them, and we get that when you do it right, they can be a very good thing for your itinerary. And so, Connor, I'm curious, before we kind of dive into the specific courses, what's your approach as one of our planners in terms of that 36-hole combination and where you're fitting it into a trip?
Good question. I mean, a lot of times this kind of starts on the first initial conversation with the group. Some folks say, hey, this is our one and only time that we're going to be able to go over. We want to crash in as much golf as we possibly can into this trip and check off all the boxes. And as much as we understand that, a lot of times logistically, it just doesn't make sense. And I would say kind of use them sparingly if you do want to add in a few 36-hole days. And we'll talk about a few options that would make sense on a trip, but do them sparingly. It really can affect, your body, especially. I mean, it's rough, playing golf overseas with the weather and such. I mean, you could plan for a 36-hole day, but it could be, terrible weather. And it's just like the last thing I want to do is go out and play another round of golf. I'd rather be in the pub with a pint and watching the football game, something like that. So that's another factor of it, but just don't overdo it as well. I think it also needs to kind of fit well in kind of the location of wherever you're at. You don't want to do something where you just going on a map and you're playing, this morning, and then you have a 2-hour drive and you play another place and you're multiple different hotels, and just doesn't logistically make sense. Again, do it sparingly and when it makes sense from kind of the location you're in as well. And the other thing I like to say too is the amount of surveys that we get back from folks that we can tell them as much as we possibly can with this, but sometimes they'll throw a few in. And a lot of times in surveys, they say what we wish we would have changed. And that's not playing as much golf as we did and having those days off, or maybe not adding in as many 36-hole days. we barely or never have received any surveys that say we wish we would have played more golf. It just doesn't happen that way. It's kind of funny.
Never.
Which, yeah, which makes sense. And the other big kind of factor of this logistically from the planning perspective is if you do decide to hire a driver host for your trip, they do have driver laws and driver regulations of how many hours they can operate the coach for. That time continues while you're on the golf course. It starts when they pick you up from the hotel and continues, like I said, when you're on the course. That can also be a logistical challenge either that day, the day before, or the day after. So all those different factors have to come in to make sense for that 36-hole day on such an itinerary. The other thing I wanted to mention is you don't want to have a 36-hole day before a quote unquote big round. So for example, the Dunluce and the Valley Links at Royal Portrush the day before you're playing, say, Royal County Down. You're going to get to Royal County Down. Obviously, you're going to be excited to play it if it is your first time, but you may be a little sore, maybe tired from the day before. So just play one round the day before that quote unquote big round. But that's kind of the planning perspective from those 36-hole days, Deej.
It's all great stuff. And obviously, I mean, kind of like a lot of things when we're talking about planning trips, there's just so much more to it than just booking a time. I mean, there's more things to take into account. Driver hours, that's probably not something that I even would have thought of. The fact that, if you're playing 2 rounds of golf, you're on the golf course for 10 hours and the clock's running that whole time. So you're kind of on your own after that. But man, great one on terms of not playing 36 before that big round the next day. You've looked forward to playing the old course years, maybe your whole life. Don't play 36 the day before and step on the first tee at the old course just completely exhausted. So all great insight there. So talking about specifics where it does make sense, maybe specific courses or specific combos, we've kind of broken these down into some categories. And the first category, I'm calling it the legends. And I'm calling it the legends because when you think of 36-hole days overseas, these 3 kind of come up over and over again in the conversation. Muirfield, Sunningdale, Royal St. George's. Muirfield kind of speaks for itself. It's the best single day experience that you'll find pretty much anywhere. 4 balls in the morning, foursomes in the afternoon. We just watched the Ryder Cup. You should know what that means. You got Sunningdale, 2 top 100 golf courses at the same club. Only a couple places in the world can claim such a thing. And then Royal St. George's, where, yes, you're playing the same course twice, but we have had folks through the years, especially, that have come back and said Royal St. George's absolutely rivals Muirfield in terms of the experience of, golf in the morning, lunch in the middle, and golf again in the afternoon. And I think the key thing that has to be mentioned in terms of what all 3 of these have in common, never mind the fact that they're all top 100 golf courses, it's the lunch. It's an integral piece of the experience. I told the story back when we were talking about Muirfield. The last time I was supposed to play, a hurricane, literally, the remnants of a hurricane came through. And I had the option, do you go play in it or do you just come for lunch? And I absolutely just came for lunch because that was about 80% of my experience, I would say, in terms of what I was looking forward to. So at least on that day, given the weather. So those 3, just top of the class. And Connor, last time you were over, I'm pretty sure you did the Royal St. George's experience.
Sure did. Yeah, it was golf in the morning and then came in. Actually, we had breakfast even too before, and then played our golf and then came in and coat and tie in the clubhouse after. And I think the really beautiful thing about going to these clubs and doing potentially a 36-hole day at the same facility is you get to have that member for a day experience. You get to kind of see everything, get to see the history, kind of walk around. I mean, that was the great thing when I was at Muirfield, seeing the original rules of golf there. And I mean, a lot of these clubs, they just have plentiful amount of history from the club and just the game of golf in general. So just adds to the experience. And yeah, Royal St. George's is amazing. Get to see all the history there. Just kind of take it all in. And a lot of times there's members that are playing that day too, and you get to chat with them and kind of see their experience. And it just adds to the overall trip from that example. So next kind of options up are the combos, the best combos from our 36-hole day overseas. So you've got Royal County Down and Ardglass. Royal County Down used to offer and allow 36 holes on the championship course. We're no longer doing that. So another good add-in would be Ardglass, about 30 minutes between the 2. Brora and Royal Dornick, another option. Brora's only 30 minutes up, so you can play that in the morning or afternoon. then Dornick the other time. Kings Barnes and Crail's another great one, really close to each other too. It'd be a fun spot. Prestwick and Royal Troon as well, amazing. That'd be a great one. And then Royal Aberdeen and Merkur Links, both clubs are kind of play right up against each other, which is another fun one too. So a couple of great combos there, but all also logistically make sense and aren't too far of a drive between the two.
Yeah, I mean, all of those hit back on to what you were talking about. Where does it make sense in your itinerary? I don't know that it gets any easier than the course that's literally right next door. I mean, Merkur Links and Royal Aberdeen, they touch one another to the point that I think there's a joke that if you played the front nine at Royal Aberdeen and just kept playing the front nine at Merkur Links, it would be the best 18-hole rounds of golf that in Scotland. So, yeah, great combos there. Prestwick and Royal Troon, believe it or not, I've walked between the two clubs. I got out on the far links at Prestwick one night. It was a gorgeous evening, and there's a footpath that connects the two, goes past kind of like a holiday park with some holiday homes.
Yep.
And then it comes out, and bang, there is the postage stamp. Because you come out at the far end of the Royal Troon links. So I putzed around with the drone for a little bit at the postage stamp, and then walked back. And I think the two clubs play a cross-country match every year. They start at one club, play all the way across to the other, and then play coming back after lunch. So
and these are just like a few combos. If anyone like has some extra ones that you're thinking like, oh, Connor and DJ missed those, like, send us an email with those. I'd love to hear other ones. I'm just thinking of like London and Leven Links too. That's a fun and unique one. We're missing a few, but yeah, I'd love to hear what everyone else's thoughts on that. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them. We had Kings Barnes and Crail. I mean, there's so many that are close to each other. Actually, talking about St. George's, Royal Cinque Ports, is that stretch of 3 courses. The Hagen Hoof, you could just go do it. You could probably figure out 54 holes and make it happen. That's a whole different podcast episode, I feel like. But the point is, there's a lot of opportunity for 36-hole days where it does make sense, where you're not taxing yourself, where you're not, driving another hour and burning time. It's pretty easily done if you give it some thought in advance and some planning in advance. The other option that gets it done, this category is the second course options. Now, I think we've joked here on the podcast before that we call Connor Second Course Connor. That's kind of his little nickname, because you'd be hard pressed to find anyone that has played more of these second courses than this man right here. And so, yeah, it's a perfect opportunity. You have places like, you mentioned one already, the Dunluce and the Valley Links. The Valley Links, if it was located anywhere else in the world, would be a standalone destination by itself. And especially here in recent years where they have, really done some work to it and brought it even higher in terms of the quality of the play. You've got Ballybunion with the Old and the Cashin. The Cashin is getting redone. Tom Watson has been doing a bunch of work there, and I think it's supposed to wrap up next year. So it'll be interesting to see, if we start seeing more groups that just say, hey, let's just hang out and play here again. Turnberry, you've got the Elsa and King Robert the Bruce. The seaside stretch at Turnberry is pretty spectacular, and so it's a pretty easy way to just enjoy more of it. You mentioned County Down, the Ainsley Links. Listen, it's only like 5,000 yards, just a little course. But the key with this, I think, and you just mentioned it, is, okay, you can't play 36 holes on the championship, but how can you maximize your time and maximize your experience at Royal County Down, this course that headlined your trip and what have you? Tack on another round on the Ainsley, because it's the same setting, shares the same stretch of property. So great way to do it. Not far away, you've got Ballyliffin not far away, it's all the way up on the north coast, but it's same general area, I guess. You've got the Old and the Glashedy Links at Ballyliffin. The Glashedy held the Irish Open a while back. Rosapenna, you've got numerous options that you can accomplish with St. Patrick's Links, Old Tom Morris Links, and the Sandy Hills Links. Had to think of those for a second. 3 great ones. I mean, that's another trio. And then, and speaking of trios, you got Gullen. Didn't even think about Gullen. Gullen number 1 and Gullen number 2. That composite, I don't remember which holes they used from which, but they borrowed some holes from number 2 and paired it with number 1 to create the course for the Scottish Open when it's been held there. So just yet another example of so many options. And for some of them, you don't even have to leave the property.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the beautiful thing about it. And yes, second course Connor here is going to give his opinion on this. But yeah, I love it. There's a few facilities and few clubs in America that do have like fantastic both courses. It's like, oh, there's really, it doesn't feel like one's better than the other, and they're both ranked highly. So I get that, but I mean, the Cashin course and the old at Belly Bunyan are amazing. I'm actually going to play the Ansley here coming up in a couple weeks at County Down too, and yeah, the Valley Links at Portrush. I mean, incredible. And yeah, like you said, Deej, I mean, some of these are just fantastic. And if they're anywhere in America or just on their own, like they're still going to be great, great courses. So it adds to that, and it helps us logistically being essentially on same property from a driver hour perspective and many others as well. And the other kind of ones we wanted to mention too are the new ones that are in the mix that just opened up. So it used to be just Castle Stewart, and now Cabot Highlands came into the mix and opened up Old Petty. So two courses right there on property. And then you've got Trump Aberdeen. So the new and the old links there too. So, two other facilities are just kind of opening up, and more to come in the coming years. And there's some news up in the Highlands too of some other courses coming online. That's just going to make it a little bit easier and everything a bit more confined, where you don't have to travel all throughout these countries. You can be in one area and play all the great links courses, and even throw in some of those 36 hole days that, like I said, that do logistically make sense.
Yeah, I mean, didn't even mention the Struy at Royal
Yeah.
Dornoch that, you know,
Yeah.
deserves maybe a little bit more attention than it gets. And again, it's
Hmm.
been getting, they've been doing some work to it here in recent years. And then we're going to
Right.
have another course at Royal Dornoch. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's really great from a travel standpoint to be
Hmm.
able to kind of come to one of these places and get a couple rounds at a time, even if it is over 2 or 3 days. But to be able to just limit the moving around and limit all the hotel changes and
Yeah.
so forth. Anytime you can remove travel and replace it with golf, I think it's a very good thing. Okay, so we covered a lot of combos and a lot of options. You have to pick one 36 hole day.
Oh,
It can be
yeah.
any of the combos we talked about, or even one that if there's one we missed that comes to mind. Where are you doing 36 holes?
Yeah, it's got to be between the Valley and the Dunluce Links at Royal Portrush. So everything's right there. Second courses, you're like, oh, it's not going to be as good as the other ones. I mean, come on. I mean, there's some holes at the Valley. I can't remember. It's a fourth or fifth, maybe sixth hole on the front nine there at the Valley Links. Just a insane par five. I think it's a double dog leg. There's tons of hazards to the left, and a lot of these clubs, they could just make it kind of the easy one, or just not put much architectural thought or just funds aside to some of these kind of features around the greens, and that's far cry for some of these courses, and especially this one. I'm actually playing it again here in a couple of weeks and really looking forward to it. I know they've actually made some changes, more specifically to the back nine on the Valley. They kind of routed a few of the holes. 15 through 18 are a little bit different now, so looking forward to seeing that. But yeah, I can't think of a better one. There's a few others, but I think that's my 1A there. There's probably a 1B, but yeah, 1A is definitely the Valley and the Dunluce Links at Portrush, and just being there and maybe lunch in between two in the clubhouse too. That could work well. So that's my number one. What about you, Deej?
So I want to say RCD and R glass, just because of kind of the juxtaposition. You go to RCD, you got a tough day, you don't really see the ocean a whole lot. It's there, you're aware of it, but it's not like bang ocean. But then you go to Ard Glass, and it's like bang ocean, and I think that's probably my 1B. My 1A, if I'm gonna go somewhere for the day, take me to Cabot and let me just play Castle Stewart and Old Petty. Old Petty's brand new, but from what I've seen of it, flying overhead and what have you, I just there's so much that goes into it. Number one, the views, especially at Castle Stewart, everything was just shaped around those views, and you're just by the sea the whole time, and it's just fantastic. And then the scale of Old Petty, just an incredible day. And really, a couple things. You've got great lunch in between there as well. It doesn't get the notoriety, but the food is really awesome. And if I'm going to Cabot, I know I've got some great caddies that are going to be along. But I also know it means I'm in the Highlands, and it means I'm probably going to go up to Dornoch. So maybe I'm going to play 2 rounds there, touching on the last podcast as well. So yeah, that would be my 1A and 1B. What would be your 1B? Because you hinted at one.
Yeah, it's the cash in and the old at Ballybunion. That's That's it. I'm going to be there. Also, so I'm doing England, Scotland, and Ireland on this trip. Kind of a whirlwind of one, but I am playing the old at Ballybunion. But I'm going to go see the cache, and I played it in 2018, yeah, 2018, 2019, something like that. So the other thing too, some of these, the championship courses, you can't take a buggy, but some of them you can just take one without needing a medical note at some of the other courses. So the cache, I mean, we rode in a cart and we played in 3 hours, 2 hours, 45 minutes, 3 hours. That's the other benefit too. Sometimes you don't even have it scheduled on your itinerary. You can add it, while you're there. So you don't have to, crush yourself with walking another 18 holes, sometimes take a buggy. And that's another benefit of this too. I forgot to add.
Emergency golf. I feel like
Yeah.
there's a whole episode that we could do on emergency golf.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to do it. So, all right. Well, as usual, thanks for tuning in. We will put some stuff in the show notes. I've got some links and so forth that we'll drop into there about these courses. I think I've already got a guide to 36-hole days that we'll put in there that's up on our website. If you have any questions about travel planning or what have you, send us an email, golf@haversham.com. You can DM us on social media or head to haversham.com/podcast. You can record a message. We'd love to feature your question on a future episode. But as always, thanks for tuning in. We will be back again soon with another episode. But until then, we wish you plenty of golf at its finest and life at its best.